Okay, are we ready here? My apologies, but this presentation is going to be only in English because I do lack the words to express some of the things that I want to say in French. And for both of us, it'll be a change because this won't be technical. What I'm going to tell you is sort of how we make use of the technology that you are familiar with now in the policing world. So this is more about a world that very few civilians ever get to see. And I've spent 40 years in this world, and so I'm just going to give you an overview of how we've come to where we're at right now with some of the technology, in that we're using Mikrotik boards with some Xagyl transmitters in some what we call critical incidents. So in the real world right now, everybody's concerned about police video. And what comes out is we see dashboard cams, because everybody wants to see police chases, we want to see crashes, we want to see fights, we want to see stabbings and shootings. To sort of put the police perspective on this, we're starting to wear body cameras on the police, on the uniformed police. And that's a lot for our protection as much as it is for your protection. You see one incident maybe out of 1,000 where it involves the interaction between somebody who's not sort of getting along with the police and the police who aren't getting along with them. You don't see the other 999 where the suspect has actually been in the wrong and we've had to deal with them at some risk to ourselves. So when we see police video, the things we see are usually videos from dash cams and body-worn cams. Before that, from back in the 1970s, we have what we call investigative video. Investigative video is stuff that never sees the light of day except in court. So if you were organized crime or a drug dealer or murderer, some heinous crime, and we were investigating you or an intelligence gathering thing, we would employ video. Because the one thing that really works well when we go to court with video, juries love to watch video. They're used to seeing court cases on TV, and they're used to seeing definitive video. If you get a bad guy on video, tough for him to refute what's happened on the video because it speaks for itself. So we've been employing video since the 1970s. We also use video for major events. The Pope comes to town, the President comes to town. We have a G8, we have a G20. We have all of these major events, we have them. And they're set up downtown Montreal, Quebec City, Kananaskis, they're all over the place. So we have to go out there and we have to cordon off areas that the VIPs are going to be in. But we don't have enough bodies to put a man every 10 feet. So we're using video to watch low threat areas, doorways that are locked to make sure nobody's coming through that doorway. And so we use these as both a record of events in case something does happen. But if you're ever paying attention at a major event, you'll see people wandering through the crowds before the VIP even gets there, of people with video cameras. What we're doing, we're looking to see who's talking to who, what faces are in the crowd, because if something happens later on and we identify as happened in the Boston bombing, you go back to all these cameras that are out there and you can see, hey, these two guys came in together, they talked, they split up. One of them we say, we think is involved. Now maybe we have two. So now we've got a conspiracy. We've got a bunch of different people involved. And so what we're trying to do is backtrack to see where these guys go. And England is so far ahead of us in this. They've got cameras everywhere. If you get on the motorway in Manchester and end up in London, they'll have you at every camera stop along the way. Plus, if you get off the tube or get off the railways, they can follow you everywhere. We're not at that stage yet. Where I'm coming from, my home is called tactical video. These are all the events that, what we call critical incidents. And I'll get into what critical incidents, what types of things are critical incidents. For us, a critical incident is everybody's going this way to get away. We're going the other way. We're the guys that went into the World Trade Center, not we, but first responders, critical incident people. When the planes hit the World Trade Center, the police were going one direction with the fire department, the paramedics. Those are first responders. That's a critical incident. The general public is going in the other direction. So when we talk about investigative video, it started out being surreptitious surveillance. We got lots of organized crime, lots of drug dealers, lots of murderers, lots of very hardened criminals who live in areas where it's really difficult to set up a surveillance on them to watch who they talk to, who's meeting them, all the things that you need to know to build a case. You can't get into some of these. There's some barrios, not in this province, well, there's probably sure in this province, I didn't work in this province, but in Ontario, there are places you can go where the organized crime, you can't even drive into there in an unmarked car. They have watchers everywhere to let them know that there's somebody strange coming into the place. So if you want to get evidence on those, it can only be done electronically. You have to bury cameras, hide them someplace, tap phones, place listening devices, all that stuff. And that's sort of how we really started to get into tactical video. It was a spin-off of investigative video. So undercover operations is another place where we need to protect our own undercover operators. We need to, if there's a meeting going to take place, a buy and bust, or just an introductory buy, we need to make sure that if something goes wrong, we can get in there immediately to save our operator and to save anybody else that happens to be in the line of fire. So we're using video as a means of real-time watching. We're not transmitting it anywhere. Usually we were hardwiring it to another room, to another location that's close by it, because it has to be in the immediate area of where the operator is operating, because we don't have the time. Witness protection. Boy, there's lots of people who need protection here. In the policing world, you people are sheep. The criminals are wolves. The police are the sheepdogs. Our job is just to make sure you don't get hurt. That's what you pay us for. That's why we have to employ all these other things to get at bad guys, because bad guys are really smart. They have unlimited funds, a lot of these people. They can buy whatever they want. They have the technology before. I'll give you an example. In the mid-80s, the first portable satellite phone came out. I happened to be working the RCMP in Ottawa, and we got invited down to a gathering like this when somebody unveiled a satellite phone. 2 weeks later, I'm in Bogota, Colombia, talking to the Colombian National Police, who have just raided one of Pablo Escobar's places. We hadn't even acquired this technology. They seized 10 of them from Pablo Escobar. So the bad guys got more money than we. They have no restrictions. They don't care whether Industry Canada has this approved or not. They can buy whatever they want. We, on the other hand, are bound by specifications and legalities. But so witness protection, people who snitch, well, we don't even use the word term snitch, because that's really a criminal term. It's people who provide evidence. And it's our duty to protect those people if they step forward. You would expect it if your kid got hurt by somebody and you step forward and you don't want the kid coming, knocking on your door, or somebody knocking on your door in the middle of the night, firebombing you or shooting you or stabbing you or threatening you. So we have to take these people in, and in order for us we can't put 10 policemen in the room, we can't put 10 people around the house to keep them safe. So we need to sort of watch the outside from the inside. So when we do this stuff, we can't stick these cameras out so people can see them, because that's just we got witnesses. We don't want to advertise that we've got witnesses in this building. So we're trying to hide these cameras. So we need to have stuff that's low probability of detection. And as well, low probability of interception. So if you detect it, we don't want you having access to real-time video and see exactly what we see. So we encrypt everything. We try to make sure anything that we use is almost impossible to detect, and if you detect it, almost impossible to view. And we're not, all of the policemen here are not technical. We don't have the background you guys have. A lot of the policemen here are grade 12 education, willing, hardworking, but not technical. So we rely on technical support to give us the necessary installation instructions, setup, but it's the policemen who are manning this stuff. And 9 times out of 10, size does matter. It has to be miniature. If we're putting this stuff out there, you can't have it all of a sudden a box like this with a big hole like this for a big zoom lens sticking out. I spent years burying cameras in flower boxes and in enclosures that look like they were. You can hide an elephant in the room provided it looks like it belongs. So we spend a lot of time in developing props in order to put this stuff in, because we can't just have everybody seeing it. And so miniature really does help us out. This is my specialty. This is what I've been working in for the last 25 years. Critical incident response. Critical incident is anything that puts lives at risk. The general public is going this way. First responders are going this way. Now, my definition of a first responder is slightly different than the accepted definition of first responder. Accepted definition of first responder is somebody who shows up at the scene. Somebody's called the police. A uniformed car shows up at the scene. That's a first responder. That's not my first responder. My first responder is the guy who he's called in after that. He actually has to do something. He has to put himself at risk. He has to go downrange. It's a bomb. It's a chemical, biological. It's a hostage situation. It's a barricaded person situation. It's one of those things. So first responders that I deal with are guys who are going this way. They're the only ones down there. So critical incidents, what are they? This is the worst case, chemical, biological. These are bad because the consequences are so severe. The National Chemical Biological Response Team is half military, and the other half is made up of police and scientists and Health Canada people and chemistry people. But the actual people who go downrange first, they're bomb techs. They're Montreal Urban Community Police, they're SQ, they're the RCMP, the Ontario Provincial Police. Somebody in that town, it's a bomb tech that's going downrange. That's where I came from. Hostage and barricaded, I've been to a number of these things. Really, the threat is that you've got to be out of line of sight of these people. Because if they're shooting people, if you're out of line of sight, they don't see you coming, and they can't shoot you if they can't see you. So we're setting up cordons, and we cross these cordons as often as we want, because we own the cordons. There's nobody else in there, just us and the barricaded person and the hostages and us. We haven't had any of these for a while in North America, but aircraft and train hijackings, if somebody takes one of these hostages, I guarantee it's going to be a policeman that's going on that, whether it's a SWAT type individual technical or a bomb squad guy. One of those two or both of them together are going to go on this response. Oop. So a disaster response. Here in this country, the kind of disasters we're talking about is lac-mégantic. I got married in 1979. The very first critical incident I ever went to was the Mississauga Train derailment. Any of you guys watch The Twilight Zone or Outer Limits? When we went down to Mississauga, they evacuated 250,000 people. The only people who were in that town were people who were too old or too stubborn to leave, because it was a hazard. It was, I think it was chlorine gas. I'm not even sure what it was now because it's been so long, but it was eerie to be driving in a police car, not a soul on the street. I have a picture here. It's a sort of an out-of-focus picture because it was, I got it off the internet, because the one thing that I remember to this day was driving over the Queensway and looking in both directions, not a car, not a dog, not a soul anywhere. And the only people in there were the police and the critical incident responders, who at that time were firemen and hazmat people, because they had to put out this fire, and the train people who had to decouple all the cars and put them out. So that's, and then we have hazmat spills and contaminants. If you get a major hazmat spill where it's like chlorine or something like that, we're going to evacuate the whole town. But that stuff lingers. And so somebody has to deal with that. It's probably not a policeman. It's going to be some hazmat expert, and he's going to be down there all by him lonesome. And there won't be anybody else to assist him except his own team. So why video is important to us is they're down there by themselves. If something happens to them, we won't know until we lose contact with them. And if you get hazmat or first responders in a building like this and we're set up outside, because we're not going to be set up inside here. Why would I want to be inside here if something happens? We want to be outside. I don't want the roof falling on me. I don't want volatile gas, can't breathe in here. So we're going to be outside. But if this guy wanders around here and happens to walk into that room over there, and I don't hear from him for 5 minutes or so, I don't know where he's at. And I'm the guy on the outside who has to ensure that if something happens to them, we can bring him out. So when he comes in, we still have to have rescue teams on the outside. The last one, which is improvised explosive devices, somebody says, and this happens often on Parliament Hill, and quite often in VIP events where a suspect bag is found. Well, in these days, if the bag is there, you don't claim it, somebody else doesn't claim it, it's suspect. We don't know what it is. So we have to evacuate everybody. We'll come in there, make a determination. Usually we will x-ray the bag, because we can x-ray, we can make a determination from the x-ray what's in there, if it's hazardous or not. So at the same time we're bringing an x-ray, we're going to bring up what we call a disruptor. That bag right there, which nobody's sitting in there, if I was sitting in Spain, that would worry me all by itself. So we're going to bring a disruptor and an x-ray. We're going to place the disruptor, take the x-ray, go back and read the x-ray. If we don't like what we see, then we set the disruptor off and we blow that bag all over the place. I teach people this course. This is not a course that's fun to teach. Body bombs. I went to Colombia. A woman down there had an extortion attempt. They wanted $12,000. They put a neck bomb on her. She did not survive, nor did the bomb tech who tried to remove it. I saw that, and I came back to my garage, and I worked for a month on figuring out how to do that. I went back down to Colombia, said, this ever happens again, this is how you take it off. Those people who are downrange, they're well-meaning, they put their lives at risk, they have no second opinion. We don't put 2 or 3 or 5 guys around this device in case it goes off. So what we do is, now we're trying to bring video into play in that he's down there by himself. He has to be there. Somebody's got to be there to do something. But an expert, scientist, an engineer, somebody who's familiar with what we need to know can look over and say, okay, hang on a second here. Let me have a closer look at that. Don't touch this. Don't cut the red wire. So that kind of stuff. We need to have that ability when we go downrange. I also teach a course on booby traps because this is what frightens the hell out of most policemen, is to go in here to rescue somebody and somebody has laid booby traps all over the place. Before we even get to you, we're done in because somebody's had a tripwire and a grenade, the easy tripwire and a grenade. Like grenades are really easy to get. But all kinds of booby traps can be put into play. Improvised explosives, homemade explosives, big thing on the internet right now. I don't know how many calls I get. I run courses with the Ontario Centre of Forensic Sciences on how to figure out when you go into this clandestine lab, what's he making? Is he making homemade explosives, or is he making TATP, or is he making methamphetamine? A lot of similarities, similar chemicals, similar processes, but I'm not a chemist. I know what to look for, but if there's something boiling in there, do I turn it off? Do I leave it on? What's the consequence? I have no idea. I'm not a chemist. So we need to have that expertise from the outside inside. And that's why this video stuff that we're starting to play with here, I shouldn't say starting to play with, we're into it heavily. There are places in this world where if a device is placed, we can't let it go off there. The worst case, I guess, is a nuclear plant where an employee goes bad. It's not somebody from the outside. It's somebody who has access in there, brings in the device, and sets it someplace where if it goes off, big consequences. We have to remove it. We can't do it in situations because what we're doing is we're doing risk management here. If this is a device and I use this tool, what's the probability of this going off? Because I don't know what's in there. I don't know what the triggering mechanism is. If it's a very slight trembler switch, is it magnetic? Is it moving? Is it whatever it is? I have no idea what. I'm hoping that when I do something, it's definitive, but it could be definitive in the bad way. So we can't have that happen at a nuclear plant. So somebody's going to take that thing and walk it out the door, drag it out the door, something. Another place for video. So what's the common thread in all of this stuff when we use video? Mostly, you people aren't here. You've already left. We've herded you out. You've gone on your own. This is vacant. We cordon it off, and our cordons are small. I don't have the manpower to do 10 blocks in downtown Montreal. They had an incident in London, England, Canary Wharf. I don't know if you ever remember Canary Wharf. 3,000 pounds or kilos, I can't even remember. Semi-truck full of explosives went off in Canary Wharf. The Reitman brothers were building Canary Wharf, big development in London, England. One person got killed. Only one. And why did he get killed? He wanted to get a picture for his newspaper of the truck, and it went off. Because everybody else had been evacuated, and we had to figure out, not we, the first responders in England had to figure out what they were going to do We have no idea when this is going to go off, or if it's going to go off, or it's just waiting for us to get up there for it to go off. That's the tick, 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 tick that's always going in your heart when you're approaching these things. So it's also a hazardous threat to us. If this is a shooter, then I just really have to stay beside or behind something thick. Can't see me, he can't hit me. If he shoots at me, I've got concrete between me and him. It's just like in the movies. Not a problem. But it's still a hazard to me because I'm not free to move wherever I want. And if I have to get to that door and my only access is here, I have to figure out how I get from there to there, because that's the only access. So the other thing is, my guy is in here, I don't see him. He's out of line of sight of me. I have no idea if he's over by that door. He's talking to me, but this is one of those situations where, and the reason we're into video is you probably all played this game. Somebody gives you an object behind the wall here or behind the curtain, and I'm going to describe this to you, and you're all going to draw what I'm describing, and then you all hold it up. And what's the chances of any two of those being similar? None. Because that's the issue we have is, oh, yeah, some wires coming out the top. I don't know what this thing is on the side here, but it looks suspicious to me. Well, that doesn't help me any. I need to see what you. So what happens is, up until we could use video, we go in there, click, 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 take a few pictures and get the hell out. We take that memory stick, we zoom in, zoom out, we look at it, and if we can't figure it out, we send that picture to other experts. We have a whole network of people that we can send this stuff to, and we get opinions. Time. If that's a device that's going to go off in 30 minutes, do I have 30 minutes? No, I don't have 30 minutes. We need real-time information. We need to, the minute you see that, I need to be able to say, oh, shit. Holy cow. That's not what I was expecting. I have no idea what this is, but you know what? Here's 3 guys who are really knowledgeable in certain areas, and I'll send them that picture and ask them, I'll call them on the cell phone, ask them to give me a quick opinion on what you think it is. And that person doesn't have to be in this country. He could be in Los Angeles. He could be in London, England. He could be in Timbuktu. But I need to get him from wherever he is into my ear and to see what I'm seeing. This is this expertise that's not here. God's honest truth. Bomb techs and policemen, they're not PhDs. They're not masters. Great majority of them have no post-secondary education at all. But what they are is they're willing, they're able, and they're trainable. And they're willing to put themselves at risk. So we want to minimize that risk by bringing in all the outside expertise that makes them smarter than they are. If we had to train, if you guys were all recruits and you decide you want to be bomb squad members, in order for that to be a chemical biological weapon and you guys all to be up and trained, it would be 5 years. Because the courses aren't run every day. And then there's a certain amount of practice exercises you have to do so that you know the theory. Let's see what you do when we throw a curveball at you. So we need to have an ability to bring all the expertise we have from the outside inside. So this was the Mississauga Train derailment. The biggest disaster I've ever been in. And it just was such an eye-opener in that there was no way for those hazardous people. This was hardly any cameras. I mean, I had a possession of some Fiberscopes at the time, video Fiberscopes, because they needed to see into some of the containers to see how much chlorine was in there, what the levels were, because they couldn't determine it from the outside. And they were worried about, okay, so these ones are out, but what's happening inside these other containers? And so some hazmat guy, some schmuck like me, had to go down there and actually drill holes in these things to put these cameras in, or open lids on things and put themselves there, because you have no idea what's going on with these things. They're just unpredictable. This was the scene. And I kid you not, this is the memory I have of just sitting over in an overpass there and looking both ways down the Queensway and not a car, not a soul. This is the National Chemical Biological Response Team. We're doing a training exercise. I think this is at Toronto International Pearson Airport there. We have to brief. I have to tell these guys what I need to know. They have to come back and tell me what they see. The problem is that if this was just a bomb thing, They would go down, they would come back. The minute somebody throws a chemical biological, they can't go down because there's no way of them coming back without having to be decontaminated. So our issue is this. If you got 20 people laying on the ground over there still alive, I don't know if you can get them out if it's a chemical or a biological, because we can't set up a decontamination line fast enough to get them to the hospital to survive. So our issue is before we can go down, we have to be set up to recover our own people, to decontaminate. We strip them naked, we wash them, we put them through decontamination baths, give them a new set of clothes, but all the equipment that they took down there with them is on the other side of the clean dirty line. So we have to figure out a way to get that information back. Here's a scenario we were running. This is up in Ottawa. What do you do if you've got a body down? Now this is a typical decontamination line. You see, we put these people, because they're incapacitated, so we bring them up on carts and we roll them onto, just like the food stores, you know, or the big conveyor belts where you throw at the beer store, put the case of beer on. That's what we do with people who are injured, because we don't have enough manpower down there to carry everybody. So we wheel them up there and throw them on these things, and as they go by, they're stripped and washed and decontaminated, and somebody's doing a quick triage on them. And all of the stuff they're wearing is staying on this side of that red cone that's just below the yellow tent there. I kid you not, a bum thing might be 2 hours. A suspect package, a hoax, will be in and out in 20 minutes. CBRN, we'd be there days. It's just, you have to bring all this stuff. It's not sitting on the truck, tents and decontaminating and people and bodies that you need. It's just, it takes forever. It's another exercise, winter. We have that in Canada. If we were in Florida, we wouldn't need half the stuff. But these are little shuffle pits, because as you walk, the thing that comes in contact with contaminated areas most are your boots. So periodically, as you're coming back, you're going into shuffle pits so that you don't bring all of that contamination from in here every step of the way, and we have to decontaminate the whole area getting back out to the street. So people coming in, the first responders and that, we're decontaminating them bit by bit by bit by bit. So where does video come in handy? If they're wearing video, the people who are doing the decontamination, they're sitting inside this tent. These little benches here, this end guy here, the end guy closest to the tent, he's going to sit on that bench with his back to the tent. It's just going to be like, you see in medical doctors, don't touch me, I'm sterile. You got this hands, we're going to take all of this stuff off you. There's a whole method, and this is where this Ebola problem they had when they brought Ebola back, these patients that had Ebola, everybody thought, well, you know, we just take this off and we take that off. There's a whole art to taking gloves off without you touching the outside of the glove with the inside of the glove, or your fingers, because you're double gloved most of the time. And so the people who are taking this stuff off, it's a regular routine here that you have to go through to train to get out of that stuff without bringing any of the contaminant on the inside. So it's a process. So originally we put drop cameras down there. We don't want them to be manned. We just need, at the command post, I need to see what's happening. I need to see if the bodies are being processed and who's where. And so anything that goes in, you take a pen in, it's written down. You take this in, it's written down. Time. So all the stuff that goes in has to be accounted for coming out. So if something that goes in comes back out and it's not logged into the decontaminant, it's now contaminated. Now we have to move this whole process back another one, because now we've had something contaminated come back across. So we started wearing cameras on the head. I don't know if you've ever seen anybody wearing one of these things, but I'm telling you, if you're in the truck, pretty soon you're going like this, because they're moving all over the place. So we started out with wearing it up here, but we ended up eventually wearing them right on the vest, because this is sort of fairly stable and you can carry stuff and you're not doing this. And tactical, if you're a SWAT, then you put it up here, because if you put it down here, and the minute they raise the rifle, they're going to be blocking the view. So we tend to wear video for tactical on the helmets. For chem bio, we wear on the vests. Little transmitters. We're now into Mikrotik boards with Xagyl transmitters on there, because They penetrate buildings fairly well, and right now we only need to get from here to the truck on the street. When we go downrange, the suspect package, this is called PPE, personal protective equipment. We're not going down there to tourist view. We're actually going down there to do something. So here's a case, we don't know what's in it. We've x-rayed it, we're still undetermined what's in there. It's not clear to us. Because it's chem bio and it's out in the open, we're not just going to blow it all over the place, because that's exactly what is intended. This device is supposed to set this cloud of whatever it is free, so we're not going to do it for them. So we're going to figure out, can we get into this package and disable it without it having spread the contamination all over the place? So now we need to have a second opinion, because this guy may or may not know anything about what he's going to see on the inside. Here, and this is another chemical device. There's little air holes on the end of this thing, but this is a Fiberscope we're sticking in there. But the problem is, who's watching the Fiberscope? It's the guy who's threading it here, or maybe his partner. Nobody back at the command post gets to see this unless we send them kind of video so that we can assess it. So now, if something, the crap hits the fan here, I have no idea what they were, I mean, they tell me what they're doing, but I have no idea of where they were at in the process. I have no idea what was in this case. So if I transmit the video that they're watching simultaneously back to me, I don't have anything better to do. I can put my feet up and it'd be CNN here, you know, we're just watching this like it was no threat, because I'm not worried about it. I'm not in harm's way, but these guys are. So when they're doing stuff, I'm recording it, and I'm taking snapshots of this and I'm sending it to people, because this is what we're seeing. I started out with the bomb suit. Whether you know or not, Iceland, Canada, and New Zealand, probably the safest place in the world to live. Nobody's ticked off with us. Yet, why is the best bomb suit in the world made in Ottawa? Half of the best robots in the world are made in Ottawa, and we don't have a threat. You name the last major bombing that ever happened in this country. It doesn't happen. But we're right next to Big Brother. Everybody wants to get at him. So the bomb suit is made in Ottawa because the RCMP took a conscious decision in '85 that since we're not threatened, maybe we should do some R&D. Maybe we should put our resources, because that's what we are. We're innovative people here. You guys are innovators. Canadians have a worldwide reputation for being innovators. So we said, okay. At the time, the bomb suit was made in the US by the biggest fool you ever saw. Couldn't deal with them. So we said, okay, we'll develop our own bomb suit. So being the national police, we get National Research Council just down the road. We'll get them to help us fund it. So anyway, we ended up, now the best bomb suit in the world is made in Ottawa. And it just sort of steamrolled from that. Once you start going down that little road, then the chem bio, the response that the Canadians developed for chemical biological was employed by the US, even though they had spent 10 times the amount of money on it that we did. Because we were innovators. We figured out a different way to do things, and we didn't have to give $10 million for somebody. We could give them $100,000 and get the same amount of work. So the issue is, oftentimes when you're in these bomb suits, your restricted vision is just like this. And it's hot. You put this bomb suit, it weighs 100 pounds. Weighs 100 pounds. July, you know what July is like here in Montreal. It's the same in Ottawa. It could be smoking humid. So you're not going to be in that bomb suit longer than necessary. But the problem is, you've got a suspect vehicle, you've got to go down there and clear this vehicle, and you have to go in a bomb suit in case it goes off, not while you're beside the vehicle, but as you're approaching it or as you're backing away from it. So we have to check under the seats. We have to check under the car. We have to pop the hood and look in the engine compartment, pop the trunk, look in the trunk. We have to do all of this to clear the vehicle. If you ever had a 100-pound bomb suit in July and the sweat's just rolling down you, because this is a completely sealed environment almost, and get down on your belly to look under a car when you got this helmet here that's not going to let you see under, it's a nightmare. So we need to find ways for these people to put themselves at harm's way, but get the same information in real time, get it back to the truck. They may have the opportunity to lay down and see that, but we're going to record everything that they can see with these cameras and we're deploying them downrange so that we can get the information back in real time. So when they come back, we have a discussion. In the winter, we have snow on the ground in this country. But guess what? C4, which is a common explosive, is white. And if you disrupt something that has C4 in it, you have white on white. And so you put the bomb suit down and you're walking down there. I've walked by a block of C4, didn't even see it, because you can't see. So we need to drop cameras and so go back, and then the guy goes, hey, you missed this. Yeah, I didn't see it, white on white. So there's all kinds of reasons to have video, to get real-time information from inside to outside. So right now we're playing with Megapixel cameras with the Mikrotik boards because they're IP already. The data just streams right through. Transmitted via the Xagyl boards and pumped onto the video imaging software on the laptops. So now we can have the bomb squad guys. Here's a pull camera here. It's a one single-handed pull camera because really all we need is one hand. We're not telescoping this up to look over things. So we have interchangeable poles, so we can make this camera longer or shorter depending on what we need. What we really want to be able to do is have the bomb tech see it at the same time as the operator sees it back at the truck. So tactical guys, remember if you look in the screen here, top left, middle guy, he's wearing a camera. I just watched the video from the Danish police who have got some of our equipment over there. They drove around this whole site for 4 hours and lost 10 frames of video in 4 hours. This is at Tepoff. These were the pull cameras that, this is my old office building up there. We developed pull cameras for our SWAT guys because we had the money, basically. The bomb squad and that were protective policing. There's usually some money left over for them, and so we would develop toys for them to develop technology for them to deploy. This robots. We send robots downrange because sometimes it's really threatening for us to be down there, and we don't need to be down there. But if we're down there, what's better than having a mobile camera platform to watch me? So we'll send a camera down there with the robot to do nothing else than just to watch. We have barricaded subjects. He can shoot that robot. You've seen it on TV where they've deployed robots to climb stairs to get at barricaded people. So we do that. Do it for distraction, too. We send them this way, and we come in the back door. So we do deploy robots, and those robots, oftentimes, the only video link is between the robot and the operator. Well, I don't need everybody in my truck when I'm operating this robot. So what I want to have is them have their own feed. I don't want them in my truck. I want them to be looking at it at the same time I'm looking at it. One of the problems you have, if you recall the World Trade Center bombing, the first World Trade Center, 5 floors down, 3,000 pounds of explosives in a van. It blew up. They thought it would topple the towers. It didn't. Massive 5-floor crater in the place and just massive damage. But it didn't topple the building. What would happen if that device hadn't gone off? If for some reason there was a fault in the triggering mechanism, it was a timer. So maybe it's one of these mechanical timers that gets hung up. It's stuck. And the minute you go, it starts again. So what if it hadn't gone off? The last thing I want to be is in the same building as 5,000 pounds or 3,000 pounds of explosive. But somebody has to. You can't leave that truck there. You got to do something with it. The problem is with robots, to get 3 or 4 or 5 floors down, you got to do this. Down and down and down. So RF doesn't penetrate 5 floors or 3 floors from there to the street. So you got to find a way to get the video and the control for that robot out to the street. So one of the ways is we pulled this little wagon. On this little wagon was a pan-tilt zoom camera and about 3,000 feet of fiber optic cable for the control. So we would just pull it along behind us, and then just below there's a little link that holds that robot. At the bottom of this rail, a linear actuator. So it would just push down, and it's just a loop that goes over the robot. It just raised it up until it detached, and we would send it down. So now we have an onboard camera to watch the robot, plus the control only has to go from that cart to the robot. So now we have a way to control robots and that in tunnels, 3 or 4 or 5 floors underground. Once you put a camera downrange, I guarantee if it's a fixed camera, After 5 minutes, you're going to want to zoom in on something. Or somebody's walking this way and they're out of frame and you go, oh, I wish I could sort of push over this way. So what you're going to end up doing is deploying lots of pan-tilt zooms. And so I don't want to string cable everywhere I go. I can, but I don't want to. So we're using internet protocol pan-tilt zooms with the Xagyl boards and Mikrotik, because we can send communications to control the pan-tilt zooms. A variety of different cameras. These little, the one here, the long skinny one at the top, is because when booby traps, I don't know what's on the other side of this door. I'm going to drill the door. I don't need a big hole like this because I don't know what's on the other side. So I'm going to drill a hole, stick a camera through, bend it a little bit so I can look all the way around the door. Is it safe to open that door, or do I have to go through the wall someplace else? I need to see, but I want to be able to see that from a safe distance. Unfortunately, somebody has to drill that door. And if something should go off, I'd like to know sort of what it was or what he was doing back in the truck. So we're going to look back in the truck at the same time he's looking. We're carrying these things. If we know that this is the room, this is a clandestine lab, what's a better place to hang a camera than on the door frame? We need to keep that door open, so these are called wedgets that prop in there over the hinge, prevents the door from closing, but it's a good place to hang a camera and a transmitter because it's high up, it's out of the way, and it keeps the door open. So we'll go in, if this is a client, we're not going to be in here for a while, so we're just going to hang these cameras, transmit them back to the outside. So we take all these cameras and we make them fit. So the bottom right-hand side here, I'm not sure if this next one is, yeah, okay. There's an application, well, there's several applications really, but tactically is an application. If we're barricaded in hostage situations in here, well, not here, let's say you're in your house. Somebody takes you hostage in your house. So we've cordoned off and we got all 4 sides of the house covered. So we have what we call sniper observers. They're in the house next door, across the street. And they got a scope and a rifle, and they're looking at the windows. And so we number the windows. We call the sides of the house. Usually it's a number like this is the 1 side, the 2 side, the 3 side, or it's the black, white, green, blue, something like that. They color code them. And so the windows are also numbered. So we have the green 2-2. That's the green. 2nd floor window, 2nd from the left. So the guy says, hey, there's a guy here that's got glasses, got curly hair, and the assaulter, he's stealthed up to the side of the house. Okay, he's got glasses. Okay. Wouldn't it be easier to say, okay, look at my, pull your iPhone out. Here, I'm sending you a picture of a suspect. We call them doves and wolves. Sheep and wolves? Okay, so I think we got a wolf in the green 2-2. So send me a picture. Okay, so this is what he looks like. Instead of, like you two, checkered shirt, dark glasses, short hair, beards. One of you is going to get shot because I can't tell the difference. Okay, so we don't want that to happen, right? So we want to be able to send people the information who are about to kick that door in, or we get the photograph that you have a criminal record and you're the hostage. Okay, so, and we do this a lot. We practice memory and observation, it's called. So, okay. What's distinctive about you that's different from him? You got a rounder face, he's got a skinnier face. So when we come in, who's got the fatter face? You better not be going, because it's going to be him. Okay, so that's the kind of information. We want real-time stuff because it's life dependent on this stuff. Split decisions, you guys all, you don't live in this world where you make a split decision and it's good or bad. If it's bad, somebody got killed and it was one of your friends. And everybody's looking, oh, you stupid, you should have shot him. And so you shoot him, and it's the wrong guy. And they go, oh. Now all you guys are pissed off because we shot the wrong guy. And those are the life-threatening decisions that we need to sort of minimize if we can. So that's why we're using this video. And this is sort of a view into the world of how we're taking Mikrotik boards and Xagyl transmitters and putting them to use in real time for people who don't sit in this crowd. There's only one other person in this whole crowd who knows what I'm talking about, who's been around in this surveillance, and I'm not going to point him out, but there's another person in here who knows exactly what I'm talking about. For you people, all you need to know is that we're taking the technology that you're familiar with in one application and really streaming video. And for us, when we get into Chem-Bio, we want to send information from all our detectors. I want to send something down there, but I want to get that information not only to me, I want to get it to a scientist who might be at the Winnipeg in the Health Canada Level 4 lab there. Or I might want to send it to Los Alamos or one of the big nuclear labs in the States who is familiar with what a nuclear device or a radiological device should look like. So that's the view I wanted to give you as to how we're using some of the stuff that you're quite familiar with. And I thank you for your attention and not throwing stuff at me. Go ahead, your question?
Based on your expertise, I'm sure that quite a few guys in this room have set up IP cameras for surveillance.
Yes?
So based on your expertise, what would be your best practices that you would recommend with respect to collecting video files for eventually sustainable, So what would be the best practices with respect to, let's say, image quality, camera position, let's say?
You know what? You talk about IP cameras. I like IP cameras in that it's a quick plug into the board. My issue with IP cameras is they're poor for light level. The image quality deteriorates much more rapidly than an analog camera. And the reason if you come out here, I've got a camera and one of the transmitters set up out there, and it's an analog camera. And the reason it's an analog camera, and I'll get to the storage stuff in a minute, but the reason it's an analog camera is because I haven't found an IP camera that's really sensitive to the 920 to 940 nanometer light, which is invisible IR light. If I'm deploying this camera tactically, and I've got it on a pole camera, because I need to look, not so much here, but in attics and that, because people hide in attics, they hide in closets, they hide in just about everywhere you can think of, because nobody's going to find them, but we search the whole place. So I'm not going to be pulling out a drawer or a closet door like this and standing right in front of it. So the same with attics. We need to raise the thing and have a look. And I'm playing with IB cameras. Two things. One, they don't have as good a low light capability right now. The other is size is only starting to come down to this. I remember I tell you stuff's got to be miniature. I can't be carrying a honking big old camera here. Say again? Yeah. 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 You know what? The image quality has nothing to do with it. What court cases are only worried about is, has this been tampered with? Has it been edited? Has it been spliced somehow? Has pieces of it been removed? So there's a video analysis section in Ottawa that, and you can hire these people privately. They can pull up a file and look at it continually. The quality of the video, oftentimes, the quality to start with is crappy because the people are wearing hoodies and they're low light. And they know that there's cameras around, so they're going down like this. You never see really everything you want to see. So there are two issues here. One is for me, is it worth me deploying the camera? I get it if it's surveillance. If 90% of the light is usable for you and there's only 10% of the time that it's going to be dark, you live with the 10%, or you add the light to the thing. The issue of storage, it's treated like any other exhibit. This is the memory stick, or this is the DVR, or this is it. Not everything goes to court. But we have to protect everything until we make a determination, do we think this is going to go to court? So we're like the rest of you. I don't need to have rooms and rooms and rooms of DVRs stored someplace, but we have IT professionals, and that's their job, is to recover stuff and to identify and make sure and document it that this has not been edited. There's nothing been removed. It started here at this frame, and it ended at this frame, and that's it. That's all. So as an operator, that's the least of my worries right now. Mostly, I'm just trying to protect my own guys downrange and to get a flavor of what's happening down there so I can understand whether this guy looks like he needs to be relieved because he's been in that bomb suit or in that protective garment for 2 hours, and he's starting to do one of these. So that's how we're looking at it. The storage information, I'll tell you what, Xagyl was talking to me the other day. Delaware police want to have every police officer, or they're looking for information. They want every policeman in the state of Delaware to wear a camera. But not just wear it. They want to transmit what that camera sees 24/7 to an off-site storage facility, and they don't want to have anything to do with the storage. No brick and mortar for them. Just tell us what it's going to cost. So you know where this is going. Pretty soon, every policeman in the world is going to be wearing a camera. And I'm not so unhappy about that because it protects us as much as it protects the citizen. People are a lot more, when they know there's a camera on them, they're a lot less disobedient and they're a lot more thoughtful about what they do. Their actions are, you're accountable for what you do. It keeps both sides sort of honest. Ooh, I'm running late here. Anybody else? Thank you for your time.